Welcome back to another GTN Coaches Corner, where you can ask us any triathlon related questions you like. Just add the hashtag GTN Coaches Corner before your question and leave that in the comments section down below this video or any other video you like. Right, straight into this week's questions. First one from Oliver Huth 4290. Hello, GTN Coaches Corner. When I do a run session at my local gym on a treadmill, I usually go to the sauna afterwards. Is there any science on whether this is beneficial or is maybe even harmful? Best wishes. Very good question. Now, I guess the first question is, what is the purpose of you going in the sauna? Have you got a goal in mind? Now, if it is for heat acclimatization, for instance, you are about to go and do a hot race in a climate that maybe you aren't currently adjusted and familiar with, then there is some evidence to suggest that going in the sauna after a workout is beneficial. Now, there are pros and cons to that. There's all sorts of different heat training and acclimatization protocols out there. Now, by going in the sauna after a workout, it actually allows you to potentially just hit your normal workout as you normally would and really get the maximum benefit from that. And then you'll jump in the sauna, your heart rate's going to stay high, and the idea is it actually helps with that heat acclimatization. Now, the other method, which maybe is preferred by a lot of other people, and apparently there is more of a boost from it, is actually doing the workout in the heat. Now, the disadvantage of that is that you may not be able to do that workout quite as effectively, hit maybe the same numbers you ordinarily would. So you wouldn't want to do this too often or for too long a period of time, because you wouldn't want to essentially detrain as you're doing that. Now, if you aren't doing this for any sort of heat training or acclimatization, you're just jumping in there because it feels great, I would probably advise against that, because actually what you're doing is delaying your recovery. You're delaying the recovery from that workout in terms of actually just getting your heart rate down, starting to just warm down, and then also things like dehydration and various things like that. So you could actually bite you in the backside a bit. So yeah, weigh up what the purpose is behind that. Right, next question from a Nicholas Lloyd. Hey GTN Coaches Corner, sorry for yet another heart rate question, but I'm a little confused about my alleged max heart rate. This is a long question, now bear with. I actually do high intensity run sessions multiple times a week since I'm prepping for sprint and Olympic triathlons. However, even though I'm running at my limit, my heart rate always settles in at 160 to max. 169 beats per minute, which of course compared to what you see by other athletes is rather low for a high intensity or max efforts. My Garmin tells me my max heart rate is actually 190 beats per minute, but the only time I ever tracked that was right after T2 of my last sprint triathlon race, and there the heart rate immediately dropped after a few minutes into the run to the numbers mentioned before. As a result, in training, I do not come close to my zone 4 and zone 5 numbers. I've done sports almost all 24 years of my life. I know what lactate or threshold or my limit feels like. It just does not show in my heart rate. So who is wrong? My body feeling or max heart rates given by the famous 220 minus your age calculations and my Garmin? I would appreciate any help. Right, quite a lot to unpack here, and thank you for all the detail. First, your max heart rate is your max heart rate. Don't start comparing it to anyone else. For instance, James and myself, our heart rate zones are completely different. James has a very low heart rate, whereas mine is typically fairly high. Also, secondly, what your Garmin is telling you, I would fairly confidently say is incorrect. A 220 minus your age is not a very accurate estimation of your max heart rate. And finally, you're not going to get close to your max heart rate in something like a sprint triathlon. So whatever you saw during that sprint triathlon, I wouldn't actually even imagine that is close to your max. Your max heart rate will be reached in efforts all out in sort of 90 seconds or 2 minutes in duration, not over something like a sprint triathlon. Also, one other thing is, how are you measuring this heart rate? Is it through a wrist-based optical heart rate sensor or through something like a chest or arm strap one? Typically, the chest and some of the new arm strap ones are much more accurate. You get a lot of interference through the optical heart rate sensors on your wrist, and I have also seen very obscure numbers coming through from wrist-based heart rates in the past. Now, finally, just to kind of conclude and bring all this back together, you don't actually need to know your max heart rate. I actually don't know my max heart rate, at least lately. All you need to do is know your lactate threshold heart rate. And actually, you don't even need to go in a lab for this. The best way to do this is actually go and do a 30-minute all-out run, solo, not with other people, and then take the last 20 minutes of that run and your heart rate and pace, average heart rate and average pace for that last 20 minutes. And that is your lactate threshold heart rate, or also your lactate threshold pace. And that's all you need to know. And you can get your good zones from that. Alrighty. Okay, next question from Jonas Weiss. Hi coaches, as you are familiar with the conditions at the Algal Cult Triathlon, which I did with Joe Skipper the other day, what are your tips for races in the rain? I raced my first middle distance that day and probably did some rookie errors. As a tall and skinny guy, I do tend to feel quite cold quickly. On the bike, I was wearing a short sleeve rain jersey over my tri-suit, but my quads started cramping after descents. My hands got also quite cold and it was getting difficult to change gear. I did manage to drink and fuel enough. On the run, however, I underestimated how warm you get and carried my jersey in my hand for some kilometers as my pockets were full of gels. The real problem was that my socks were absolutely soaked after the bike and developed a very uncomfortable wrinkle, which made it hard to keep focused. How did you adjust your tactics and equipment to bad weather races? Well, to answer your final question, actually, firstly, from experience, I have actually made the mistake of not being equipped for races in the past and have been caught out due to the weather and the conditions. I remember a race in Norway where the hail came down just quite suddenly out of the blue, and it was the early stages of the bike and a lot of us really struggled in the cold. A few people actually pulled out quite hypothermic, and I came away from that realising I really need to be better prepared for all conditions, however out of the blue they may seem. So really good that you had a rain jacket and you were somewhat prepared for that. Now, as a general rule of thumb, starting with the bike here, whilst you will warm up as you go through the bike, what you want to take into account is that wind chill as well. Now, I normally find that if you are comfortable in the clothes you're wearing off the bike before you go, then you're probably going to be pretty well equipped for the bike when you're actually moving. So your body temperature is going to rise, but then you have the wind chill almost cancelling that out. That's fine. On the run, however, you're not going to have quite as much sort of wind chill and the speed of that wind or air going past you. And therefore your body temperature, you're going to start to feel a lot warmer. And that is why you obviously felt like you needed to take that rain jacket off. So I probably would have advised that, yes, you would have worn some extra clothing for the bike, and then as soon as you got onto the run, whip that off. Now, practically in a race, things you can do, and I've used in the past, toe warmers over the bike shoes. You can actually get some that just go over the front of the shoes, and that will just keep those toes nice and warm. It's not necessarily going to keep your feet dry, and just unfortunately going to have to accept that. You can put arm warmers on coming out of T1 or out of the swim before you go out onto the bike. You can also, as you did, put sort of a wind vest or rain jacket or even a gilet over the top of you and over that tri-suit. And then also, if it's really cold, as you maybe could have benefited from here, it's actually wearing some gloves, particularly if it's kind of a mountainous or hilly race, as the Algal Triathlon is, as you're going down those descents. And also, one final thing, if it is raining, remember to lower your tyre pressure. Right, final question from Nick Newman 2449. I've seen a lot of advertisement for peptides. Could you tell me what are the benefits and how it works? And will it benefit a triathlete? And most importantly, is it legal? Now, I've got to be honest, this isn't something I'm too familiar with, so I've had to do a bit of research myself. Now, peptides are basically organic chemicals made up of amino acids that trigger some sort of change in the body, such as fat loss, muscle growth, faster recovery, better joint health. And there's actually hundreds of out there that do all sorts of different things, like collagen for the skin, insulin is also a peptide, growth hormone is a peptide. And lately there's some synthetic peptides that are appearing for things like anti-aging, as I say, muscle growth, testosterone boost, and they've actually become readily available. Now, they actually are safer than some of the alternatives like anabolic steroids, but they're also banned. Now, to read some stuff here from my research from USADA, the use of some peptide hormones, including those with anabolic or strength-enhancing actions, are prohibited under section S 2.2 of the WADA prohibited list. The list of S2 agents grows each year, and even if a substance is not specifically listed, it may still be prohibited if it has a similar chemical structure or similar biological effects. Now, you can check on a website called Global Triathlon for different ingredients or even some of the medication or things like this, like peptides, to see if they are actually legal for your sport in and out of competition. Not all peptides are banned, just to be clear. There are things like collagen for the skin, for instance, which are absolutely fine. Also, from USADA, it is illegal to sell peptide hormones in dietary supplements. Unfortunately, there are many websites that sell experimental peptide hormones marketed as research chemicals for research use only or not for human use. In addition to being prohibited in sport, the safety of such products has not been established. Therefore, athletes should avoid these products. Now, a search online will actually find many websites sort of touting these supplements and almost like you're a fool to not be using them. Now, don't be that fool that actually ends up taking them, because not only is it cheating, they're banned, and also, as I just read out there, it could be dangerous. Anyway, that is all for this week's Coaches Corner. Do please keep your questions coming using the hashtag GTN Coaches Corner. Leave in the comment section down below. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. See you next time.